Aside from the obvious reasons, how else can you practice creativity in dance? Now, this is part 2 of my answer to that. But before we get into that, have you watched part 1? If not, I request that you watch that first and then come back to this one. So, go. Yeah, I'll wait for you. Go to the first video and then proceed to this one. This is part 2. And to let you know, this creativity series is now on a playlist in my YouTube channel. That way you don't have to scurry in the entire channel. You just have to go to the organized playlist and then you will get there all the good bits of creativity in action. And of course, don't forget to like this video and subscribe to this channel for more content on creativity in different forms and fields. So just a quick recap of the last video. I talked about there the aspects of dance, especially performance and choreography, and how I found creativity in those areas. Now again, aside from the obvious that you get more artistic in expressing yourself, and you get to perform on stage, I had the experience of being limited by my own physicality and capacity and resources. And because of those limitations, I was able to find other ways to navigate myself through the arts, especially in ballet. And if you notice, I have this certain pattern wherein I first tell the story and then I point out the problem and then I tell you how I tried to solve that problem, and then eventually I get to sharing some insights that you may or may not be able to use in your own context in life. But I do believe that these stories, rather than me just lecturing to you on how to do what, would be a better approach to certain things, because I do believe that there's no one-size-fits-all in the creative practice. We all have our own lives, our own preferences, and so hearing a lot of stories from people will help creativity become more personalized and more varied in a sense. That way, you do have this buffet of stories to find your context from. If you're interested in learning more details on each aspect that I mentioned before, performance and choreography in particular, let me know if you want me to create a separate video on each one, and what kind of topics do you want for those aspects of dance, and I would gladly create them for you. And if I do pick your request, I might be able to feature you as well and maybe answer some specific questions that you may have. Now let's go to the main video, continuation part 2. Third one is the wonderful, cathartic, yet nerve-wracking world of improvisation. When I first experienced the UPDC culture of improv, I got attracted to it right away. Everyone looked so good, happy, and free. And after a few rough years of doing dance too seriously, I just felt that I wanted to love it and enjoy it again the way our seniors did. After that, the rest was a history of experimentation, getting over my fear of contact with other people, exploring with making sounds, and learning a new language that my body spoke. It took me years to get comfortable with not thinking about what to do next. My body vocabulary now has been inspired by many influences that I may or may not have formal training in. And I think that's the beauty of improv. You don't always have to think of the next big thing to do, you just have to let your body do its own thing. And you'll be surprised by the many things that your body catches on a daily basis. As I've learned in my many experiences, improv, especially with a group, takes a lot of attunement and sensitivity. In my experience, I have danced with a lot of young dancers who like to move a lot, and exceptional experienced dancers who just move beautifully naturally. And with those interactions, I have developed the skills of moving slowly, repetitively, and sometimes counterintuitively to give more space and opportunity for me and the other bodies to complement each other. It was more about the conversation happening between bodies than the spectacle being seen by those watching. When I'm given the space to just let it out, I would usually end up doing a lot of athletic movements and steps with strong dynamics. Then I would end up the next day with a stiff neck or a sore body. And that would be an evidence that I let loose and just spilled out during the improv session. I love the feeling, and sometimes I wouldn't even remember the moment in my head after doing it. Cliche as it may sound, I can attest that you can get a natural high and catharsis from an epic improv session. I just record and hope for the best that my body would offer the best that it could at the moment. I don't choreograph anymore due to the lack of time and space to practice. And sometimes my improv pieces would look better than my choreographic pieces. The last and I guess most recent bit in my experience is teaching. When I think about it now, I realize that it's about bringing all the three together and letting other bodies experience it. As a student, I learned some valuable insights from my former teachers. To do something is different from showing how it's done. And to show how it's done is different from actually teaching it. What became clear to me when I became a teacher and a mentor was that I wanted to share all the things that I learned in the way that I wish I was taught how. It was also with teaching that I started to intentionally learn about empathy. I was not an outspoken kid when I grew up, and I knew it was a combination of my introverted personality and the societal expectation of only asking smart questions and bringing out opinions and statements that had power, conviction, and intelligence. And with that, I felt that I didn't want to make mistakes and be made fun of. And that also made my learning experience a bit limiting and scary at a certain point. I'm not saying that my schooling was oppressive or judgmental, but it felt that way to me for so many years. So when I went back to my high school alma mater to teach, I pushed my students to take initiative, suggest ideas, ask as much questions as they want, with of course limitations about my personal life, and begin to actually feel themselves when they dance. I gave a lot of improv sessions. I created interactive and mostly essay-type exams, and sometimes I would even dance with them if we had the opportunity. And I gave lots of workouts to make sure their bodies were ready for the big things that they wanted to do. And somehow, the classroom experience that I was part of during that time felt really inclusive, and I was hearing not just my voice, but the voice of those who really mattered. Just a disclaimer, don't take my word for it. You may ask some of my students if you know them. And if you are and were a student of mine, if you want, you can share your story in the comment section below. I would love to recall those fun and funny days with you guys, and I hope to converse with you in the coming days. As for today's online learning setup, I, together with my co-teachers at the Victor G. Orsabia Dance Studio, realized that teaching dance at this point in time is not mainly about perfect form or executing movements precisely, but more importantly, allowing the students to still enjoy the process of dancing at home and understand the principles of dance. That way, whether we are with them on cam or not, the natural curiosity and love for dance will remain in them. It is also about trust and giving them the autonomy to explore for themselves. Even as a teacher and a facilitator now, I'm still learning about ways to maximize a Zoom platform to really make the learning more experiential, collaborative, and inclusive. I conduct classes in ballet and contemporary dance, and I also facilitate therapeutic movement sessions for all people of all backgrounds and body types. I also open art sharing sessions for both groups and individual, and finally, I also give talks on creativity, motivation, and combining art and nature together. If you're interested to connect with me, you may send me an email through the address that I will put in the description box below. And if you're interested to learn more about the things that I do, there's also a Linktree link to the many projects that I've done and to my online galleries that I have. So dance for me was not just an art. But ultimately, it was a way for me to cope through life and to find different and creative ways to navigate myself in the journey. Now, this concept of starting with limitations, I learned from a medical professional who also loved and excelled in the arts, Adil Vora. I will link his TED Talk in the description again below. He says that to trick your brain into creative mode and not get overwhelmed with a blank canvas or a blank slate, you want to start with a few limitations. Put some healthy boundaries for your work, and you'll find that you become more motivated to find ways to work through them. And most of the time, we already have those limitations in our lives. We just have to name them one by one. And to finally wrap up this video, we talked about the following things. Number one, I shared a little bit of my history in dance, and I showed through my experience how creativity appeared in the different aspects of dance, mainly performance, choreography, improvisation, and teaching. And finally, we ended with a useful tip to start with the limitations in mind. And that was a wrap. So I hope you learned a lot from my own stories of performing, choreographing, improvising, and ultimately teaching. Again, if you do want more detailed contents on each aspect, let me know in the comment section below. I would love to make more content that is more meaningful and valuable to you, especially if you're someone who's looking into starting your own creative practice, most specifically in movement. You don't have to be a dancer. You don't have to have an artistic background right away. All you have to do is start with the willingness to learn and explore. Don't forget to like this video and subscribe to this channel for more personalized stories and content on creativity and how it is practiced in different fields in life. On the next episode, we will be talking about another aspect of the arts where I found a big chunk of my creativity as well. I look forward to hearing from you in the comment section, and until the next one, bye!